It's a pleasure to be here with the Jesus Christ CEOs here at NRB 2023 in Orlando, Florida. And we are absolutely honored to have a guest with us that each one of us needs to understand and get behind, Sam Brownback. Sam, would you introduce yourself as to who you are, what you do, what you represent, and I'm going to ask you some questions.
Jim, it's great to join you, and thank you for having me on Jesus Christ CEOs. I love the organization, I love the message, and I love the work that you're doing. I chair the National Committee for Religious Freedom, and it's a group that's just recently stood up to fight for religious freedom domestically here in the United States, and that's our mission. It's to fight for that. I chair an International Religious Freedom Summit where we bring people together from all over the world to push for religious freedom for everybody, everywhere, all the time. I'm a former senator, governor, ambassador for religious freedom, member of Congress, so I've worked a lot in the government space, and now I'm really pushing and focused in a great deal on this religious freedom space, particularly what we need to do more domestically to stand up for our free exercise clause. You have a constitutional right.
That's right.
To walk your faith out in public or in private, as long as you're peaceful about it. That's your right to do, and that's what we're standing and fighting for.
Why would it be, from your perspective, and what a background, what an absolutely anointed background you have in multiple areas of society, from business, from government, and so much else. Because we are a business-focused global media network and system, why should someone in business, from your perspective, be concerned about religious freedom? Why should that be something that's on a businessman, a Christian businessman or woman's radar?
It's a great question, because most people would look at it and say, look, my business is business.
Yeah, right.
But my experience as a person of faith is your business is never just something earthly. It is also something eternal.
That's right.
I mean, you can't separate the two. You can't say, well, okay, I'm a head of a widget company and this is what I do. When I went into Congress, I was thinking at first, I just need to be a congressman and not bring my faith into it. And then I was just conflicted all the time because I was doing things that I really didn't think was right. And then at the end of the day, it's God that lifts one up and puts another down. And if he lifted you up and put you there, is it just for a carnal purpose? It's not. It's for an eternal purpose. You walk by the Spirit.
That's
you walk
right.
by faith, not by sight. And so you need to walk those things on out. And the odd thing then to most people is once you do that, God takes care of all the other stuff.
That's so true.
It works well.
So true.
We just so often don't believe it. We don't believe when he says, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you.
Mm-hmm.
We just kind of go, that's too easy. It can't really be that way. Truth of the matter is, it is, and he calls us to be like little children or to study the bird of the air that he cares for. He cares for us. He'll do it. And you will be much happier in your own soul if you'll watch and do these things. Now,
So true.
religious freedom is one of those, it is a foundational human right. It's the human right that's closest to the soul. And that's what we're asking these companies now to start looking at and seeing what you can do to promote religious freedom, both domestically and internationally.
Yesterday we had at our consecration for JCCEO Media that now we are officially launching the world's first global business media network. That's exclusively what Jesus is doing in business, telling the stories of what Jesus is doing in business around the world. That's what we're doing. We are so honored to have you as our first interview at NRB. But let me back up. Yesterday, Brad Dacus from Pacific Justice League, he shared a little bit about what they do to help support Christians in business when they are persecuted, when we are brought to legal courts over expressing our amendment right, our First Amendment right, freedom of religion. Tell us what a businessman, from your perspective, businessman, businesswoman, a Christian, what should they be doing to ensure not to do their business in fear, but to do it in the faith of the Lord, because we have these religious foundational principles by our Constitution, not only in government, but also from heaven. What advice would you give?
My advice to them was to be bold and to not be scared. So many people will not live their faith out because they're afraid, oh, I'll get sued or I'll get
That's
criticized
exactly right.
or I don't want any of that. And you're going, you know what? What are you going to say to the Lord when you're in heaven and he asks you, what did you do with the things I gave you? Are you going to say, well, I was kind of scared, and so I hid my talent in the ground? And you're going, how's that one going to sell for you? You know, I remember as governor, I would think sometimes, well, I don't know that I want to do this because I'm going to get criticized in the Topeka Capital Journal newspaper. And I thought, how's that going to sell in front of the Lord when I stand up in front of God and he says, why weren't you bold? Why weren't you speaking out? And I would say, well, I was scared of a bad article in the Topeka Capital Journal. I just don't think that's going to sell very well. And the thing about it is you can do a lot as a business person. You could look at your supply chain and say, you know what? I want to make sure that the countries I'm originating products from are honoring religious freedom for the people there in those countries. You can say for your own people here in this country that, you know, look, I want to stand for religious freedom here. We're going to support and bring in candidates here at my company that are running for school board that want to stand for religious freedom in the local school board election or in the local state legislature election. We've got a campaign going on now in our group, the National Committee for Religious Freedom, called Chased Away. There's a lot of Christian associated social conservative groups are getting fired by their providers, their financiers, their insurance companies, their data providers. And we want to get those stories in so that we can surface them and tell state attorney generals and other groups, look at what is happening to socially conservative people. This should not happen in a country where you have a constitutional right for free expression. We've got a number of legal groups, Lions Defending Freedom. You mentioned the Pacific Group that defend your legal rights. What we're trying to do is get ahead of that and get involved in the governmental system and in electing people that will stand for religious freedom on those school boards, in the state legislature, in the Congress, in the White House.
I hope everybody listening to this is getting a taste of why it's so critical that business people, because the business in a community really defines what the community is like.
Often, yes.
I mean, the entire society of a city is really determined by the success or the unsuccess of the business community because they fund everything.
Yes, absolutely. And look at Psalm 2, you know, where they're talking about the leaders of the world. They're talking about the kings and the rulers. You're looking at the kings, governmental leaders. The rulers are actually the head of businesses.
That's right.
I think in this, because they're the ones that are given this special position of authority over a lot of people. You may have 5 people, you may have 5,000 people that work for your company. That is a special charge. That's
Absolutely.
A special trusteeship that you have. And none of this stuff here on earth is ours. It all belongs to God, but we've been made trustees of this. You've
That's
been
a
made
good
a
word.
trustee
That's
of
a
your
great
company.
word. That's right.
And you're going to be held accountable.
It's
for
the
that.
ultimate performance appraisal in business, isn't it not? When you stand before Jesus, that's your ultimate performance appraisal.
You know, that's your real stockholder.
That's right.
He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. And you know what I find is so many Christians go, no, I'm just going to bifurcate these two. I'm going to separate my eternal perspective from my carnal perspective. God doesn't do that. You can't do that. It doesn't work that way.
And not be, as we like to call it, an authentic disciple of Christ. That's how we define it at JC CEOs. We're an authentic disciple. The preeminence of Jesus ruling over all of us, mind, body, soul, and spirit, everywhere. That's what Colossians 1 says, that Jesus is preeminent in everything, and he should be preeminent in the business. We shouldn't own the business because we think, hey, I don't want to do that because I might get in trouble. If you are a true disciple, as we teach in our Jesus Christ CEO Institute, what it means to be an authentic disciple and run an authentic kingdom company, you don't own the company. Jesus gets to rule and reign and do what he wants to do. And I know that Jesus is going to protect me in my business if he is literally the leader.
And how liberating.
Isn't it?
How liberating. Instead of all the pressure on you and you're saying, oh, I got to make this money and I got to do this, you got to do that. You're going, God, it's yours and you put me here.
And we work hard, we work the ground, but we do what he tells us to do.
Absolutely.
Exactly the way he wants to do it.
And you live by his principles, and you're going to be happier, you're going to sleep better, your people are going to be happier in the company. I remember when I went through that transition, I'd gotten cancer in 1995, and I was a member of Congress, and But before, boy, I'm just trying to run all the levers of control, and I'm going to be this and that. And after that, I just, Lord, it's yours. I don't know how to.
And it took cancer, that pivot, that tipping point for you to finally come around.
To come around. But since then, since I was in Congress and doing that and gave the Lord my ambition, he put me in the Senate, he made me governor, he made ambassador. You're just going, how liberating that is. But then you get involved in these great social causes. So like I carried the first bill against human trafficking. I helped in the religious freedom, international religious freedom legislation that we put forward. I carried the bill for apology to Native Americans in the United States. I signed 19 pro-life bills as governor of the state of Kansas. 19, just these.
Impressive.
You know, and we had 17,000 fewer abortions during the period of time that I was governor than
Glory
the
to
prior.
God.
So there are people alive today because of what I did. And it wasn't me, it was the Lord that put me there. But, you know, that's what I'm just saying. Businesses, this is the way you have to live, and you'll be free, and it'll work if you'll do that. And I really do hope people will start to live more that way, and then look at these things like religious freedom that are so foundational. Remember, this is a God-given human right. God gave you and I the right to pick him or not. He said, you can pick me or you can decide against me.
Your choice. He even gave us the answer.
And he even gave us the answer.
Choose life.
And then he even knew when he did it, he would have to send his son to clean the mess up we would create. And he still did it. This is a precious right. And you need to make sure that people around the world that you're responsible for have that right.
I want to tell you a back-end story that I believe our founder, Leray Heyne, has shared with you, because you met him at your conference last year. The Lord led him. Why should I go? I'm in business. Why should I come to a religious foundation in Washington? And he had a chance to meet you. And part of the backstory on that was this. Leray himself has said, and through your organization, at least through his eyes, he did not know what a powerful remnant there is behind the scenes that most people don't know.
No,
of men and women of faith that are doing magnificent, strong things. They are proclaiming Jesus in the hallways, and you don't hear that in almost any media. But could you just talk about the remnant that you see in the business area on religious freedom that we don't even know about?
We don't even know about. And remember, the darkness doesn't want to think. They want you to think it's all over, it's done, and you're dead.
That's right.
And just go crawl under a rock somewhere, or just go make money and just, don't worry about any of this stuff because it's not going to matter. It's all false.
We're just waiting for the rapture anyway. Just wait.
Yeah,
don't do anything. Don't advance the kingdom. Don't advance the kingdom.
But God's out there going, no. And God, remember, he doesn't need a majority. All he needs is a little faithful remnant. That's all he's got. All he needs is a few little fish and loaves, somebody to hand him off a little bit of something.
You're so right.
And all he's got to do is you just got to open up and say, well, Lord, it's yours. And he will make it soar. If you just, give it to him. Just you'll say, okay, Lord, it's yours. To me, that's the beautiful thing. And I've seen it walk out in my own life and the things that I've been able to be a part of. I just hope people in business will start to look at it that way. There is a faithful remnant. It is still here. It does operate. And, you can be a part of groups. Leray came to our International Religious Freedom Summit. We're going to do it again in January 30th, 31st this next year, right ahead of the National Prayer Breakfast.
Excellent.
It's the same week, same venue as the National Prayer Breakfast. They can go on our website, the National Committee for Religious Freedom, to work on domestic issues, the ncrf.org to look at
ncrf.org.
And that's where we're forming up these. We got a campaign called Chased Away. If you were fired by a company because of your religious affiliation or your social conservative views, give us your story to get those to people that can then surface it to state attorney generals.
See, I had no idea. Right there. That's such a diamond in the rough.
Oh, it is.
If we are persecuted for our faith in the marketplace, there are those like your group that will help defend and or say, wait a minute, this is wrong. And we'll stand together as brothers and sisters, and we'll go after the evils in
we'll shine
the government
a light on
system.
It because
that
what's
is
happened,
so good.
We've had so many groups that have gotten fired by their provider, by their bank, by their insurance company, because of their social conservative views, because of their Christian affiliated views. And then they just kind of go quietly and find somebody else. No, you should not have to do
That's
that,
exactly
where you
right.
have the
That's
free
right.
exercise right in this country to stand up and to say, look, I believe in Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, and I can publicly proclaim that in this country, and I have a free exercise right to do it. You may not agree with me, and that is fine, but this is what I believe, and I have a right to declare it. And then when people go to fire you or say, well, we don't want to be associated with him for reputational risk or whatever, no, I have a right to do this, and we're going to shine a light on people that are firing folks for standing up for this.
This has been so encouraging to share a few minutes of your time with us, Sam.
Thank
You
you.
have given me a fresh perspective. You've gotten me excited about getting more involved in what government, because, hey, they control the laws. The government
Yep.
controls so much
Yes.
of what we have the freedom to do in business. We should be more aware. We should be more involved. This should be on our radar. Tell our group, tell everybody listening to this, how they can get in touch with your group and some of the events that are coming up, again, like the January annual event, and how to get in touch with, are there state groups or regional groups that we can also get in touch with? How can we get in touch with you?
Through thencrf.org.
Okay, great.
Thencrf.org is one on the
And that is
domestic.
THE, the NCR.
Yeah, THE, thencrf.org. The annual meeting for the International Religious Freedom, and this is a global meeting, is just they can go on the IRF Summit website, IRF Summit website, and see and sign up for the one this next year. And then we're trying to get state affiliates stood up
That's
for
good
this
to know.
National Committee for Religious Freedom.
Okay.
So we want Floridians for religious freedom. We want Kansans for religious freedom. They can
great.
go up and sign up to be a part of, and we bring in all faith communities. It's Christian, it's Jewish, it's Hindu, it's Muslim that are there because everybody needs to fight for this religious freedom right that you have, this free exercise right. So we're asking people to form up these groups and then start fighting in Florida and the state and local level and the national level for issues that come up, because we're just seeing more and more pernicious activity trying to limit this right to religious
That's so
freedom.
true.
And we need to stand up and fight for it.
And if I could phrase it in my own language, I want to encourage all the men and women in business in America, we're speaking right now about domestically in America for now, that they have more voice and more leverage and more power in their community than
Yes.
church leaders, than even some other government officials. When the business leaders speak, the entire community must listen,
That's
because
where,
it really funds everything.
yeah, that's where, look, that's where my paycheck comes from, or that's where my little business is dependent upon that business thriving.
That's right.
And so, yes, you've got a huge impact, and you're going to stand before the Lord someday and going to have to answer for that. Now, that's where I think a lot of people just think, they're separate issues. No, God lifts one up and puts another down, and so He's going to ask you, what did you do with the talents and the resources I gave
right.
you? And you're going to have be accountable for that.
Well, you, sir, and I say this because it's the first time we've ever met. I've known your name for years. It's the first chance I've ever had to look you in the eye and say, thank you for being a role model for all of us. And I mean that. I know you're a humble man. I can see it all over you. You're not doing this for your glory. You didn't do anything in Congress or as governor for your glory. You literally made that shift to do it for the glory of God, the preeminence of
Yes.
Jesus. You, sir, are what many of us aspire to be. And I just say, Lord, bless this man, bless what he's doing, bless the work of his hands so that he can come and lay those crowns at your feet, Jesus, and glorify you forever. For son, you are doing great, great work. You honor Jesus, I will honor you, so says the Lord. Sam, thank you so much.
you.
It's an honor to meet you. And Leray better watch out. I may be tagging along with him to come to D.C. in January.
There you go.
And be with you.
That would be good.
What an honor.
Years ago, the chaplain of the U.S. Senate once asked all of us, how many constituents do you have? And different ones, we had 2 million, 6 million, 10 million. He came back and he said, may I suggest to you that you just have one? That's God. And if He's happy, everything's going to be fine. And if He isn't, it's not going to work. And I thought, constituency of one.
Constituency of one. That's a hashtag, people. Constituency, if you can spell it, of one. Sam,
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate
it's an
it.
honor. God bless you
God bless
so
you.
much. Thank you for your time today.
My pleasure.